Get free tech advice for your business from O2 Gurus. Search O2 Business for more.
Honor. There's a lot of Honor going around these days. I reviewed the Huawei Honor 6 and the Holly a few months ago, and I've just reviewed the Honor 6 Plus. Now it's the turn of the Honor 4X, a 5.5-inch screened phone with a 13 megapixel camera and a 720p display. That's a lot of bang for your buck. So where's the catch? Kicking off with the design, and this is a plastic phone. It's got a removable back cover and a mediocre in-hand feel. Sure, it's solid and sizable, but it's no flagship. You wouldn't expect that for the price though. Under the hood are dual SIM slots and a micro SD card slot as well. The ports and buttons are pretty typical, with a mono speaker at the bottom of the 4X. Under the big screen are 3 capacitive buttons. Around the back, a 13 megapixel camera and flash combination. So there's no wow factor here, but there's very little woe either. It looks like a very fair phone, it feels really solid, and there are no glaring issues a full week into use. In fact, for the price, I'm impressed. The screen's also excellent, 5.5 inches of 720p IPS goodness. Translated, that means it's big, decent quality and has fair clarity. 5.5 inches is on par with the Honor 6 Plus, the iPhone 6 Plus and the LG G4. It's a little smaller than the Microsoft Lumia 640 XL, but that's the phone I'd say it was most similar to. Rather than packing flagship colours and brightness, it's tapered like you'd expect for a £149 phone. It looks great for the price, but it's washed out compared to top-enders. It's also a fair bit less sharp with a pixel density of 267 pixels per inch. Viewing angles are still excellent, and it's responsive. It also doesn't feel cheap or tacky when swiping across it, which is brilliant. You can also customize your white balance too, so you get a balance of great value and quality hardware and software. Inside the screen it's Android 4.4.2 with Emotion UI 3.0. That's Huawei's custom UI that makes everything feel a little bit more like iOS. There's no apps tray for example, and if you pull down one of the home screens, you get a Spotlight search clone. You do still have access to the Google Play Store though, and all its applications. What's more, Huawei makes customizing the Honor 4X easy as pie. Themes, transitions, wallpapers, you really can make this your own. The interface can bug out a little here and there, but nothing major. It's also a different version of Emotion UI to that found on higher end devices. So for example, there's no settings shortcut in the pull down bar. While this is a small thing, it annoyed me repeatedly, and will likely do the same for any other seasoned Android user. The multitasking button also needs to be held down. Pressing it just results in a context-sensitive menu. While I won't complain too much given the pricing, I for one would definitely take the Moto G with its more stock UI if I didn't want such a big screen device. The camera, however, is much better than that of the Moto Gs. 13 megapixels around the back, 5 megapixels on the front, and really impressive quality across both. The results from the main camera in well-lit conditions look brilliant. Decent dynamic range, accurate focus and clean images. There's also an HDR mode, though I tended to stick to automatic. HDR softened things just a bit too much, and it's the 4X's clarity that makes it so good at the price. In low light, things don't fall apart as quickly as they do elsewhere, which is also awesome. This is a budget smartphone that can handle ambient lighting without a flash. The 4X kinda artificially brightens pictures to deliver a more pleasing snap, although exposure can be managed in an iOS gesture when shooting. So drag your thumb down and you pull down a slider when taking your picture that reduces brightness. This puts the 4X on a similar standing to the Lumia 640 XL quality-wise. Like the Lumia, there's also a powerful flash to help in dark situations. All the praise of the Honor 4X camera isn't free of criticism though. Saving a picture can take an age, especially if it's taken in low light or if you've got HDR mode switched on. There's also only 8 GB of memory, so you'll definitely want a micro SD card. Once you get one, you'll feel much better about the prospect of recording full HD video. As far as the quality of that video goes, it's 1080p, has fair smoothness, decent exposure compensation, and generally quality gets a thumbs up. Across the board therefore, provided the lighting's right, the 4X impresses. So too does it in other forms of multimedia. You can't tell the screen isn't full HD when you're watching a movie, it just looks awesome. Streaming services are also abundant. Pictures look decent and so too do ebooks. In fact, reading is the main area you might clock a pixel or two. Text is just a bit less forgiving on screens under 300 pixels per inch. I'd love to say that this thing blew my mind as far as gaming goes, and on one level it did. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 played back flawlessly on that Kirin 620 processor. But with Android, games need to be installed on internal memory, and when there's only 8 GB on board, you'll fit 2 or 3 games on here, tops. So while performance from the 64-bit Kirin 620 and 2 GB of RAM is fine across the board, whether it's gaming or whether indeed it's just user interface swiping, and the phone benchmarks pretty much on par with the HTC One M7, a flagship from a couple of generations ago. Can't recommend this for gamers thanks to that lack of memory. It is microSD expandable though, so we'll have plenty of room for photos, additional movies that you throw on there, and music content. The phone didn't heat up or have any major meltdowns in my week with it. It also did a good job of keeping me connected. 2 SIM cards, one capable of 4G at a time. So all the key connections are present. Bluetooth 4.0, Wi-Fi, GPS, as well as that 3G and 4G, though there's no NFC, wireless charging, or an infrared blaster, kind of things you associate with flagships anyway. There is, however, a very reasonable 3000 mAh battery inside. This does a great job of coping with the 4X's demands, making it last a full day easily, well into 2 days for light users. And with that, my Honor 4X review is done. A brilliant budget phone that's hampered massively by a lack of internal memory. Great for a lot of people, terrible for gamers. For you, I'd recommend the Huawei G7. It's pretty much the same phone, only with 16 gig internal memory and a Qualcomm Snapdragon 410 inside. Alternatively, the Motorola Moto G is a very good phone with front-facing stereo speakers and a 720p display. Comes in a 16 gig variant too. Hopefully you enjoyed my quick review of the Honor 4X. If you did, then click that like button. And if you like BTech in general, subscribe to the channel. That's how you're going to stay on top of everything that we do. Thanks for watching.